Welcome back to Animal Crossing New Horizons. I'm dear darling, as you see what's going on our wonderful island of Fawnhollow today, where I was actually just checking my email, which is, probably not the most exciting thing to be doing, but I still had a new email. It's the Amazon order. I think I brought it up before, thinking of doing a D&D guide campaign, and me putting this sort of self-imposed deadline, I suppose, of sometime in the start of this year I'm going to start organising it, thus I need to do more organisation for it. I ordered the DM's handbook and monster manual. It's not called manual, but I actually think that's how Norman says it, so it's now embedded in me, that's how you say it. But anyway, hello everyone. We're now in Fawnhallow at 6:13 PM on Thursday, January 4th, 2024. So that's coming, apparently. I also ordered a new water bottle. I ordered a Hydro Flask. Because I've had this Nalgene one for ages, and I can't remember where I read it, but it was apparently like when Nalgene ones aren't so great because, plastic is, metal is generally preferred, I think, nowadays, to plastic. And I myself, I'm like, that makes sense to me, microplastics or something, which, I don't know unless, I'm not going to call out Nalgene and being like, there's microplastics in the bottles, because I don't know if that's actually even true or not. But certainly, I thought about it more, and I was like, water does taste more refreshing from metal bottles than from plastic. So I was like, we've had a good long... How many years have I had you for? Like 8 years or something? That's probably too long for a bottle. I probably should have changed you ages ago, but now I'm upgrading, or maybe downgrading, sidegrading, I don't know, to a Hydro Flask. Anyway, I was just checking my email because... that was the update. That was the email. I was just saying it's dispatched. I don't even see when it's arriving because I just closed out of it. Expected Saturday the 6th. There you go. So maybe you'll see on Saturday or Sunday, or the Animal Crossing episode will be like, oh, Dungeon Master Guide or something. You might be like, how's the campaign planning coming along? I'm getting it down onto paper. I'm getting it down in this Notion thing. I'm actually like building stuff. I'm getting these ideas down, which is, good. It's progress. It's slow but sure, but it's always starting out as the hardest. And then when you start getting these ideas like crazy, that's when it becomes easy. Once you have that solid foundation to work off of, it's so much easier just to add small bits here and there. At least I find. You might be different. You might find the beginning the easiest, which is totally fair. But you and I are not necessarily the same. Anyway, that's not what I was going to talk about today. That was just like a random detour because of that email I received. What I was going to talk about today was something very interesting, which I wonder if I should keep it like vague or not. There's no point in really keeping it vague on that sort of thing. But maybe I should say. And I'm trying to think how to phrase this in the most exciting way possible. Instead, I'm just probably really confusing you. You're probably sitting there being like, what are you saying? But I'm going to give you like 5 seconds to guess. And obviously, I can't hear what you're saying. So I guess you'll have to type a comment, or you'll have to just, say it out loud and see if you're actually right or not. What you think I'm about to talk about. It is related to me and I suppose a YouTube channel, and yes, it is YouTube related, I suppose, not necessarily related to my channel though, but it was something very interesting which has happened. Okay, there's your 5 seconds up. But I have provided a voiceover for a Genshin Impact guide by the people over at Kachingmains, or KQM as you might know them. And wow, so if you go there right now and you search up a character guide for Navia, that's me doing a voiceover. You can, I can't remember how it starts, like, in 4.0 through Fontaine, I can't remember how it starts anymore. But yeah, I was like, oh, look, surprise, there you go. I mean, yeah, I've spoke on and on about how much I would love to do voice acting work and that sort of thing, but I'm not a voice actor. There's not really these opportunities. But then, ages ago, I can't remember exactly when I signed up for it. If you don't know, I play Genshin Impact. But that's probably no surprise there. And if you don't know who KQM are, they're basically like theory crafters for Genshin Impact. They're number crunchers, I suppose. So they're like a community who helps create guides on how to best utilize characters, backed up by actual statistics and numbers and experimentation, and they make these really helpful guides, which I've used countless times in my journey through Genshin Impact, especially trying to defeat one of the hardest modes that they have, called the Spiral Abyss. Nowadays I don't really use them as much because nowadays I have a decent knowledge of the game, I can get away with whatever. But I still refer to them from time to time because they have a very fantastic breadth of knowledge and very knowledgeable people within the community. And then a while back, because I joined the Discord server, just actually it was because of a character called Dia. He was my favourite character in the game, and it's incredibly weak. I joined the server just to like search up discussions about people talking about her, being like, how can I best actually utilize her? And I saw that there was posts being like, hey, we're like looking for volunteers for like these roles within the community. And I was like, oh, one of them's voiceover, and one of them's like voiceover work. And I was like, this could be an interesting opportunity for me. Why not take it? You know, as much as I love doing like, as much as I talk about loving to do voice acting work, I never actually tried to really pursue it, I'd suppose. It's always one I would theoretically try and pursue, where I'd like sign up for like whatever voice acting sites, Casting Call Club, and other sort of like these sites, but never actually have a courage to post anything. So I was like, you know what, this is something I'm knowledgeable on. They're looking for volunteers, I suppose, in the first place. I use their resources, so I know what's going on. I feel like I'd be a good fit for this role, and you know, I've done so much YouTube video stuff that I feel like I've got a good sort of narration voice going on. So I applied, and then I didn't hear back for like months or something, like for ages, to be perfectly honest. And probably they were just like collecting a load of applications and sorting through them, because bear in mind they're all volunteers mind you, so I'm certainly not going to blame them for that. All the stuff they put off is fantastic. And then I got a message being like, hey, yeah, we'd love to have you on the team. You're like exactly what we're looking for. And I was like, oh, amazing, fantastic. So then I joined, and, you know, and I get like slowly acclimated, I suppose, with the process and that sort of thing. And I sort of like chillax for a little while until, you know, some opportunities like start coming up. And I did a voiceover for a different character, but that character guide has not gone up because their character banner has gone. But maybe you'll see that in the future. They're called Rivesley, if you're curious. That was the first one I did, which was a good warm-up, because I was like, you know, I was a bit unsure what I was doing, and I was just like, oh, you know, what you're doing is fine, and that was good reassurance. And then there was basically the project request for this new character, Navia, coming out, and she's also one of my favourite characters, and there wasn't a voiceover artist assigned to it, so I was like, hey, I'll do it. And here you go. And then it was actually quite awkward, because she got released like a few days before Christmas, and of course there's a whole process, like they have like a whole pipeline of how you develop things. Like, of course, the script needs to be written, like people need to do testing and calculations, verification, etc. Then you need to have quality assurance. Like, they have a rigorous process for this sort of thing, which is fantastic. Obviously, like, obviously it ticks all my boxes, being like, oh yes, this is very like, you can tell people know what they're doing here. And before it finally lands to me, being like, hey, everything's ready, dear darling voiceover artist, go ahead, narrate this out loud. And that's what I did. But it was very awkwardly around sort of like Christmas-esque time, so I couldn't do it on Christmas or Boxing Day and that sort of thing. But I think I did it over the next 2 days, on 27th and 28th. Just like after all Christmas celebrations, wearing off that high, I suppose, and being like, all right, let's do this narration. And it was a super fun process, to be perfectly honest. You know, send that off, and then like some things was like, hey, can you re-record a couple of these things? And I was like, yeah, no problem. And then we did it, and here we go. The video's been entirely edited, uploaded, and yeah, you can go see it yourself. I don't know how long is left in Navia's banner. Hopefully there's still time, but if you are looking for experts, I suppose, opinions on whether you should pull her or not. Well, it's not really expert opinions on whether you should pull her or not. It's more like, here are the expert opinions on what you'll have to face if you do pull her. Whether you want to or not is up to you. And yeah, it's me narrating. Isn't that fun? I think it's quite fun. So it's sort of like, I mean, I feel like it's a baby step towards fulfilling a goal of one day. I don't know if one day I'd like to be a voice artist anymore, to be perfectly honest, but I would at least like to indulge in it as a hobby and that sort of thing. I mean, I feel like I've spoken about this before, but I've actually been told quite a few times I should become a voice actor, which I don't know, maybe you agree with, maybe you don't. I think it's just more that the sort of like, what's a word? Not melody, but like the timbre of my voice or something is quite soothing. It's quite pleasing. I mean, it's a thing I hear quite often through YouTube comments. Thank you for everyone who, of course, who leaves those kind of comments. People say your voice is very relaxing. It's soothing. It sounds like it'd be really good for voiceover work. And of course, me being me, being like, okay, you know, I could do voiceover work, that sort of thing. But there's a lot that goes into voice acting in the first place. Of course, you know, there's two parts of voice acting. There's one, the voice, which, you know, if I do have a good voice, that's certainly a good benefit. But the other part is acting. You still need to be able to convey emotions, of course, through how you speak and doing that sort of thing. And certainly when I was younger, I think, despite the fact I loved the concept of voice acting, I wasn't really any good at that in the first place. I have no drama experience. I still have no drama experience, really. I'm not really a performer, but I think by doing this sort of YouTube channel, like over the years, I've eventually developed it. I mean, it kind of happens whenever like you end up reading like an hour, I suppose, of dialogue every single week, I suppose, and just training it up. Eventually I'm going to become somewhat okay at it, even if I've not been professionally trained or anything like that. So I think this is like a nice sort of reaffirming thing for me to be like, hey, you know, I'm grabbing these opportunities with both hands, instead of just being like, oh, it would be nice for this to happen one day or something like that. Instead of being like, it would be nice for that to happen, I got to make it happen, you know. So yeah, I mean, there's not much else to say. I suppose if you don't play Genshin Impact, you clicking on that video will be very confusing. You'll sort of like watch it and be like, I don't really know what's going on, but that's Dear Darling's voice, and yes, it is. I guess I wanted to. I'm not really someone who shares this sort of thing, and honestly, I've told none of my friends about this. So, you know, I mean, if you're one of my friends and you're watching this, then I suppose this is probably the first you're hearing of it, which is not too surprising coming from me. I mean, if you know me pretty well, I don't tend to talk about these things. I kind of like to let people discover them naturally, I suppose, which kind of goes down the drain nowadays that I'm doing a YouTube channel daily, and, you know, my friends actually do check into some of the videos sometimes. Like, I think I spoke about this, like, when I was talking about, I don't even remember what video it is, but my friend, I described something as a joke, of course, being like, oh, it was like it was one of my friends wanting to meet me and the rest of my friends, the rest of my secondary school friends at the time, and I described myself as like, in my like circle of friends, I'm like the one with the one brain cell. I like to use Tumblr terms, if to use Tumblr terms to describe it, or like a Tumblr meme, I suppose. I'm not actually sure if that's from Tumblr, to be perfectly honest, but that's what I associate it with. And then some of my friends, like, next time I like joined a call, they were like, oh, so you're the one with a brain cell, huh, dear darling? And I actually just went, what are you talking about? I have no idea what's going on. But it's because one of them watched a video and like passed it on, and it's very funny, to be perfectly honest. I do find it an interesting sort of reflection, because by nature, I don't really talk about myself all that often. It's not that like I'm particularly embarrassed about myself or anything. I'm just not like. I feel like there's more interesting things to talk about, I suppose, in general conversation. And as you know from the way I talk about things, I don't tend to get like really hyped up for things. Things I do because I want to do them, not necessarily because I'm like, oh yeah, I'm so enthused to do them, anything like that. There's very few things I feel that passionately about, or summon up that sort of passion for it. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. It's just, you know, who I am. I've come to accept that over these years. I'm a very sort of low-key sort of person. But I think that, like, that sort of dissonance between me in real life and how my friends know me, you know, talking quite reservedly about things, and then of course me doing a channel where I'm basically forced to talk for like 20 minutes. Like, if I didn't talk about myself, what am I going to talk about? I'm the only one here, that sort of thing. There's not like a conversational partner I can sort of rally back and forth between. I have to talk about something, and I can only really draw from my own experiences. By that, I'm very much forced to talk about myself, and then I wonder if my friends find it strange that they probably learn more things, maybe not more things, no, that's definitely not true, but they learn some random things that we didn't know about me from these YouTube videos rather than from me myself, which I think is just sort of by the nature of things. You know, these conversations don't really come up organically when we're talking with friends, and of course when you're talking with someone else, you have someone else in the conversation, and it's sort of like the conversation gets divided between all of you about like personal things, right? You know, if you're a conversation with 5 different people, you're not going to talk about, hey, one person, dear darling, the entire time. You're going to talk about 20% each about each of you. Potentially, possibly. Of course, that variation does exist. Let's not pretend that life is just a simulated vacuum. So yeah, I don't know. I thought I'd just sort of share it here. I was considering not talking about it and then just being like, oh, you know, I would really like, it would be such a wild surprise if one of my friends randomly found it. They're like, oh, I was looking up like a Naria guide for the Genshin Impact, and this is you, isn't it? But not enough of my friends, I think, would probably do that in the first place. So I'll let them at least have a chance of discovering it in the first place. And if they don't, they don't. You know, my friends don't watch every video. That's perfectly, well, I think, reasonable. It's a wonder that they even watch any of these videos, to be perfectly honest. But I'm flattered all the same. Yeah, so I don't know. What was it like doing the voiceover work? It was good, I guess. Like, I suppose it's beneficial that I've done so much research into voiceover stuff in the first place. I feel like even though I hadn't done it before, I could still put a lot of what I knew into practice. Like, even though I haven't done voiceover stuff, I've done creative projects before, you know. I knew how to, like, use Audacity. I knew about, like, breathing away from the microphone to make sure that breaths aren't caught on things. I know, you know, when to start and stop, how to cut and edit, how to reduce noise, that sort of thing. How to balance the volumes, etc., etc. I know how to export, like, on the highest quality settings. I basically just know how to use Audacity, is what I'm saying, which is helpful, I suppose. And I knew what would work going forward, and, you know, it's interesting. It's like that concept. What is it? That philosophical idea. What was it, like Mary's Room or something? Where you introduce a character to... No. It's basically the concept of, like, if someone is born in a room and has never seen colour before, like, sees completely in black and white and only reads about colours, studies it through text, but, like, never any images or something like that. If they're, like, released into the world full of colour, will they be able to, like, recognise the colour red or something like that? It's something along those lines. I can't remember. I think I actually did that experiment, right, with blind people being told and explained what shapes were, and then, like, their blindness was cured. You are June? No, you're not June. Are you June? Maybe you're June. Yeah, you are June, okay. And then, their eyesight was restored, and then they were shown, like, shapes, and they were like, can you identify the shapes? Based off description, based off, like, with you being able to feel them before. And the answer was they could not, which is very interesting. It's very interesting. I suppose the concepts, I suppose, between the different senses are not linked inherently, which is interesting to think about. Anyway. How did I get onto this topic? I have no idea. Oh yeah, so, like, the theory I had about voice acting, you know, I think helped in this narration and that sort of thing. And anyway, if you want to go over there and, you know, give it a like, comment, subscribe, even if you don't follow Kitchen Impact, go for it. You know, a lot of people put a lot of work into that project. Like, I think my job is certainly the easiest. Doing a voiceovers, I'm not going to say it's like a walk in the park or anything. It's still, you know, work in the end of the day. But I think it's certainly a lot easier than doing, like, the video editing, which, you know, shout out to the video editor, Mayotte, I believe. I actually don't know how you say their username, but, like, doing, like, all the script writing and all the number crunching as well. But presumably they do it because they like it, like the same way that I'm doing the voiceover work because I like doing the voiceover work, so it's not nearly as bad. When you like doing the thing you're doing, it's significantly easier to do it. Unsurprisingly. Whoa, revolutionary, dear darling. You're really breaking philosophical concepts here. But yeah, I don't know. There we go. Technically, I have now one credit, I suppose, as a voiceover artist. That's very fun to think about, but yeah. Anyway, I'm going to round this episode off here. So if you have been watching, thank you very much. It's been Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've been a dear darling. Likes, comments, subscriptions, shares, greatly appreciated. Socials, Discord down below. Hope to see each other again, but for now, it's our farewell. So until next time, bye-bye for now.